What if we witnessed a meeting that would change everything? On one side, Jesus Christ, the greatest spiritual leader of all time. On the other, Elon Musk, the visionary who wants to take humanity beyond Earth. One brought the promise of eternal life, the other, the promise of an interplanetary future. But what would the Messiah say to the most influential billionaire in the world? How would he view his wealth, controversies, power, space ambitions, and the relentless search for life beyond Earth? The answer might be more surprising than you think. So stay with us until the end, because today, we're going to find out. What would Jesus say to Elon Musk? Let's start by talking about space travel. Elon Musk doesn't hide his biggest dream, to make humanity a multiplanetary species. With SpaceX, he wants to take people to Mars and establish self-sustaining colonies, ensuring the survival of the species in case of catastrophic events on Earth. Sounds like science fiction? Maybe. But for Musk, it's a necessity. Now, imagine Jesus watching all of this. Would he support the idea? He might say something like, "For what shall it profit a man, if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" These words, spoken over 2,000 years ago, still hold great power. Jesus might ask, what's the point of conquering Mars if hearts on Earth are still full of hatred, inequality, and selfishness? Perhaps he would remind us that humanity's greatest journey isn't toward the stars, but toward inner transformation. On the other hand, Jesus was never against human curiosity. He encouraged people to seek the truth and not be afraid to explore new horizons. Maybe he would say something like, "Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you." Matthew 7:7. After all, the desire to explore and discover may also be a reflection of the greatness with which God created us. Psalm 8:3-4 reminds us of humanity's fascination with the universe. "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them?" If Jesus and Musk were face to face, would the Messiah ask him, "Do you want to save humanity by escaping to Mars, or by making the world we live in a better place?" In the end, Jesus might even support space exploration, but he would likely remind Musk that humanity's true salvation doesn't come from rockets, but from love for one another. Now, let's talk about Musk's wealth and social responsibility. Elon Musk is not just a visionary. He is also one of the richest men on the planet. With a net worth estimated in the hundreds of billions of dollars, he could literally eradicate hunger in several countries. However, at the same time, he argues that his investments in SpaceX, Tesla, and Neuralink are meant to ensure a better future for humanity. Now, imagine Jesus observing all of this. What would he say? Perhaps his words would be an uncomfortable reminder for Musk, and for all of us. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Matthew 19:24. Does this mean that every rich person is condemned? Not necessarily. Jesus did not criticize wealth itself, but the attachment to it. After all, a heart consumed by money can drift away from the true purpose of life. On the other hand, Musk is not just a billionaire accumulating fortune for himself. He has made large donations and shown interest in solving problems like global warming and the transition to sustainable energy. So, would Jesus also acknowledge these efforts? Probably yes. After all, he had wealthy followers too, such as Joseph of Arimathea, a rich man who used his resources to give Jesus a dignified burial. The issue was never money itself, but how it is used. Maybe Jesus would look at Musk and say something like, "To whom much is given, much will be required." Luke 12:48. In other words, the greater the wealth, the greater the responsibility. Musk might be shaping the future of humanity, but is he doing enough to change the present for those who need it most? Jesus might challenge him to focus less on rockets and more on the needy. After all, in the end, we won't be remembered for how much we accumulated, but for how much we helped. And what about Neuralink, one of Musk's most ambitious projects? Elon Musk has already revolutionized the electric car industry and space exploration. But now, with Neuralink, he wants something even more ambitious: to connect human brains to artificial intelligence. The promise: restore movement in people with paralysis, cure neurological diseases, and even allow humans to interact directly with computers using only their thoughts. Sounds incredible, right? But this technology also raises serious questions. And for many, it might have a direct connection to biblical end times prophecies. The Bible speaks of a future period of great deception and control, where a global system will attempt to take over humanity. One of the most frequently cited verses in this context is found in Revelation 13:16-17. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark. Many Christians wonder, could Neuralink or similar technologies be paving the way for a system of total control? A world where our minds are connected to a global network, where decisions and thoughts can be influenced or even controlled. Is this where we are heading? If Jesus were face to face with Musk, perhaps he would give a serious warning. See that no one deceives you. Matthew 24 swore. In other words, technology can be a blessing or a trap, depending on how it is used. If Neuralink is used to heal and restore lives, perhaps Jesus would recognize it as a positive tool. But if it is used for absolute control, manipulation, or even to replace spirituality with technology, then it would become a real danger. Jesus taught that our true connection is not with machines, but with God. And perhaps he would ask Musk, you want to connect humanity to artificial intelligence, but what are you doing to connect it to the Creator? The greatest revolution will not be the merging of humans and machines, but the transformation of the human heart. In the end times, it will not be technology that saves us, but faith. Now, let's explore the search for life on other planets. What would Jesus say about it? Elon Musk and many scientists believe that we are not alone in the universe. With billions of galaxies and trillions of planets, scientific logic suggests that life could have emerged elsewhere beyond Earth. But what about Jesus? What would he say about the search for extraterrestrial life? The Bible does not speak directly about aliens, but it presents a clear view of creation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. This means that God created everything, not just Earth, but the entire cosmos. If life exists on other planets, then it is also part of the divine plan. Jesus might remind Musk that the vastness of the universe does not diminish the importance of humanity. After all, in an infinite cosmos, God chose to become human and come to Earth to save mankind. But here's another question. What if one day we actually find life beyond our planet? Would that change anything about the Christian faith? Probably not. In Colossians 1:16, Paul writes, "For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible." In other words, if alien life exists, it is also part of God's creation. However, Jesus might ask, "You search for life among the stars, but what have you done for life on earth?" After all, while billions are invested in space exploration, millions of people still suffer from hunger, wars, and injustices. Jesus might remind Musk, and all of us, that humanity's greatest discovery is not on Mars or in a distant galaxy, but in love and compassion for others. So, perhaps Jesus would say something like, before searching for life beyond Earth, learn to value and care for the life that already exists here. In the end, the real question is not whether there is life out there, but whether we are truly living with purpose here. And what about Musk's controversies? What would Jesus say? Elon Musk is not just a billionaire and an innovator. He is also one of the most influential people on the planet. With a single tweet, he can make stock prices rise or fall, create global trends, and even trigger political and economic crises. He calls himself a free speech absolutist. And since buying Twitter, now X, his presence on the platform has become even more dominant. But along with that influence came controversies, and a lot of them. Musk has been criticized for making controversial jokes, challenging government regulators, laying off thousands of employees, and even questioning sensitive topics like vaccines and artificial intelligence. To some, he is a bold visionary. To others, an reckless and unpredictable billionaire. Now, imagine Jesus watching this digital storm. What would he say? Perhaps he would begin with a fundamental principle. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Luke 6:45. In other words, the words Musk shares with billions of people do not only reflect his opinions, but also the impact he has on society. Jesus might warn him about the power of words. I tell you that on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. Matthew 12:36. Musk may be a technological genius, but does he truly understand the responsibility he carries over millions of people who follow him as a modern leader? Jesus always taught that a true leader is not one who seeks power, but one who serves. In Mark 10:43-45, he says, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant." So, is Musk using his influence to serve and build others up, or just to feed his own ego? Furthermore, Jesus might challenge him to reflect on the real-world impact of his words. After all, while Musk posts memes and provocations, millions of people face real struggles. He might ask, do you use your voice to build bridges or to burn the ones that already exist? Musk may control companies, social media, and even push humanity toward Mars, but in the end, his greatest legacy will not be defined by how much he provoked, but by how much he helped. Perhaps Jesus would end the conversation with a simple yet powerful reflection. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Matthew 5:9. Because at the end of the day, the real revolution doesn't happen in tweets, it happens in hearts. In the end, more than rockets, artificial intelligence, or billions of dollars, what truly matters is how we use what we have for the good of others. And now, we want to hear from you. If Jesus could give Elon Musk just one piece of advice, what do you think it would be? Drop your thoughts in the comments, let's talk. Oh, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more content like this. And now that we've talked about Elon Musk, how about seeing what Jesus would say to one of the most controversial leaders of our time? Click on the video appearing on your screen right now and find out. What would Jesus say to Vladimir Putin? See you there.